You're mine, baby, you're my favorite waste of time.
Well, it's Sunday, the 28th December 2008. Welcome to the Tap Keg Craft Brewer, and get the jug out because, as promised, a short, sharp program for the festive seasons. As usual, web pages, oz.craftbrewer.org, email addresses, grahamelsanders@westnet.com.au or luckyian@smartchat.net.au if you want to contact us. Available on Skype, Craft Brewer or Graham Sanders in Australia, and of course the radio programs found at radio.craftbrewer.org. As I said, Craft Brewer, a short, sharp program, so let's get into it. What's on this program? Well, there's sweet bugger all on this program because all we got is the Weird and Wacky World of Beer. But to follow that up, we have the Weird and Wacky World of Beer and the Weird and Wacky World of Beer. Yes, Craft Brewer, a full program on the Weird and Wacky World of Beer.
I think we should have the Weird and Wacky World of Beer on this program.
So I think so as well, Sullivan. So we're going to fill up the program with nothing more than that. So aren't you just relieved, Craft Brewer? This is stupid. This is utterly stupid. It is the festive season, of course, so I suppose it is stupid. But let's get into some late and breaking stock market reports. Yes, the US is in recession. It's getting worse. Will the barley crusher malt mill survive? I don't know.
In the United States, there are new signs that the longest recession in quarter of a century is intensifying. The latest government figures show the American economy shrank in the last quarter, and economists think it will be much worse in the current quarter. The recession also continues to claim more jobs.
Yes, it's intensifying in the USA, if you people over there didn't realise it, and getting worse. Jobs are disappearing quicker than a quick flush in a men's gents, it is. It's going that quick. And what's this got to do with the barley crusher malt mill, the best owned malt mill in the world with its superior aluminium body, cold rolled steel rollers, round the world delivery in 7 days, now petrol is bloody cheap again? Well, they mightn't exist after the new year with this recession, soon to be depression. Yes, I'm the first in the world to use depression word for the US economy. Do Google them up, barley crusher malt mills. Get it now because it mightn't be around in the new year. And with that, welcome to the Cellarman.
Oh, welcome all. Now, I hope we all had a very Merry Christmas.
Oh, would you mind? Last thing I want to have on this program is a lot of soppy Merry Christmas rubbish
not?
shit.
Jingle bells,
no,
jingle balls, jingle all the way.
I did, and you singing doesn't go well with it at all either, by the way.
I don't call what I do singing, so you can't blame me.
Now, I need to know this one fact. Everybody asks this on a radio program this time of the year, but we shall be more specific, depending on which side of the ocean you come from. Did Santa give you any brewing gear?
No, he didn't, the rotten mongrel.
Yeah, bloody thing. You didn't leave up beers for him for Christmas Day, did you?
No, I left milk and cookies.
Oh, no wonder he didn't give you anything.
Why the hell you ever give me fucking milk and cookies?
Yeah. Yeah, Santa's deputy in this household has promised me I can look at a 64-bit computer, so I'm having a hunt around for one of those things at the moment.
Well, all the money you get off the bloody government, bludgeon of the government, you should be able to afford to buy a brand new one.
Well, I'm sort of going to buy a brand new one. I can either buy a new one for $1,500 or if I build it myself, I'll probably get away with it for $600, so I might do it myself and save a few quid. But anyway, Cellarman, enough of that. What news do you have?
Well, I got a lot of news. I'm definitely going to America this year, or next year, I should say.
I am bloody stunned. You are actually going to America? September.
Now, I've got to visit Shreveport in Louisiana, because that's where one of the family members lives.
Right.
And also got to visit Texas, where a good friend lives. So anyone else out there wants me to pay him a visit, give me your addresses and where you are, and I'll work out an itinerary if I can get there.
Oh, no. You've heard it first on this program. The Cellarman's coming to the US in September. He's bumming. You got this? He's looking for a bum trip round the United States, he is. So what are you after? Free beers? Is that right?
Well, partly, yeah. Free good beers.
Now, speaking of that, I had an email from Steve Payment, and he's with the Central Florida Home Brewers. Oh, what's this? You know, a lot of this wank. You love the show, all this rubbish. Yeah, yep. Oh, he's a nice guy. He promotes our show onto his club and his local forums over there, which is good. What's he got there? Hopefully he'll see us at the NHC, the National Homebrew Conference in Oakland next June. Well, I'm sorry, Cellarman, but September is
a long way from June.
Look, I'll tell you what, to the National Homebrew Committee in America, if you want me to go to your conference and want to pay me, I'll turn up. I've got no qualms in turning up if you want to pay me. I'll even talk for you buggers over there.
Well, I'll do it cheap than that. You just pay my airfares and accommodation.
Anyway, he does have an announcement out there that he wants to talk about a competition that they're running over in Florida. So let's read it out as he said, because I love the way he says this email. He said, it's a mead competition. He said, meads travel better than beer. And because meads travel better than beer, he said, there's no excuse from people from Australia shipping meads to this competition. In fact, he says, women from Mount Isa, 9,254 miles away, can ship meads to this competition. So he's obviously following the ugly women story from Mount Isa with great interest.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes. Now, that either means one of two things, of course. Steve has an ugly wife.
Or he is ugly himself and can't get a wife.
That's probably the second reason why he wants this competition promoted. I reckon he wants to go to Mount Isa and pick one up. And I've got news for him. There's plenty out there still.
Oh, yeah.
They're flocked to Mount Isa.
Yeah.
I've never seen ugly women with so many smiles on their face in that town.
I've never seen so many ugly women in one town.
I tell you, it's shocking, isn't it? Anyway, the Central Florida Home Brewers present Meadelium, the nation's premier mead-only competition. So you beer brewers, tune out, because Meadelium is only for mead producers or mead brewers only. They are apparently the longest-running mead-only competition in the world, began in 1998 and have been raising the bar on mead competition ever since. What a load of crap. It's only fermented honey, people. Last year, we awarded more mead medals than any other mead-only competition. Well, at least they're smart on the marketing, aren't they, Cellarman?
They
you
are.
give more medals out,
Yep.
you get more entries in.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, then. It's being held... Never get me to promote one of your competitions. You know I'm going to make fun of it, don't you? If you want to ferment a bit of honey and then enter it, the competition's being held on the 24th of January, 2009, and entries are accepted from the 1st of January to the 19th. So now's your chance to get out there and submit your meads to this competition. In fact, Johnny Max reckons he can produce a great mead. Yeah, right. Okay, then. Let's see him win a medal in this competition if he's so darn good. Oh, they got all this rubbish about, they got master judges and BJCP judges there, and it's all going to be done with lead crystal tasting glasses. You got this shit? They're going to do it with lead crystal tasting glasses for purity and all the rest of it.
Oh, well.
Okay, if you're all interested in this, just Google up the Central Florida Home Brewers, and the competition details are there. I promised to promote it. I've done that, and I'm going to get rid of that now. I'll wait for the results on that. You got any other news around the place, mate?
Oh, no, but a good joke.
Oh, God.
Always got a joke.
Oh, go for it.
Okay. A man charges in the bank wearing a balaclava and wielding a shotgun. He shouts, "This is a raid. Everyone get on the floor," and proceeds to empty the cash registers, or the tills, whatever you want to call them. Okay? As he runs towards the door with the loot, a brave customer yanks off his balaclava. The robber immediately shoots him in the head and shouts, "Did anyone see my face?" The robber noticed another customer peering from behind a curtain and goes over and shoots him in the head also. Did anyone else see my face? He shouts again, waving the gun around. There's silence for a few seconds before a male voice is heard from a distant corner. I think my missus caught a glance.
Oh, I love that. One last bit of feedback before we get right into the weird and wacky world, Cellarman, is every now and then you see George Washington's recipe for beer from 1757 come up. And one of you craft brewers out there has asked us to comment on it and what do we think of it. Now, this is the recipe. Take a large sifter of bran and hops to your taste, boil for 3 hours, then strain out 30 gallons into a cooler and put in 3 gallons of molasses while the beer is scalding hot. Strain the mixture and then when blood warm add a quart of yeast if the weather is very cool and cover with a blanket. Let it work in the cooler for 24 hours, then put in a cask. Leave the bung open until the fermentation is finished. Bottle 1 week after you brewed it. And he wants to know, what do you think of this recipe? Well, the first thing I'm going to say, Cellarman, it ain't beer, is it?
No, that's right.
Now, a sifter is just a big colander, right? So
Yep.
all this guy's done is he gets some barley, raw barley, and boils it, and he puts some hops in and boils it, right?
Yep.
And what's he doing with that? He's just putting starch and dextrins in, isn't he?
That's right, yeah.
They won't ferment, will they?
Not once they're boiled and the guts out of them and that. No.
That's it. So he doesn't even do a mash. And then he adds 3 gallons of molasses. So what he's really making is a rum wash, isn't he?
It is. That's all it is a rum wash ready for, needs to be put into the still next.
That's what it really needs to be put in the still. All he's done is used a dirty, cheap method of using molasses for the fermentation sugar, probably that's all he could get, a bit of raw barley boiled up for a bit of dextrins, a bit of body, hops boiled up just to give a bit of bitterness, and basically fermented it. It's not beer by any sense of the word. It's not mashed. It's nothing of the thing.
I reckon it'd be bloody disgusting anyway.
It'd be the most awful tasty thing. It's a rum wash with a bit of bloody hops in it is basically all it is. God, why would you bother putting in the bit of barley in the first place? No, I got news for you. George Washington did not make a decent beer. In fact, I got even bigger news for the United States people. He didn't make beer, period. You got that? Now, speaking of weird and wacky things, what's left to do, Cellarman?
We better get on the weird and wacky world of beer.
I think the weird and wacky world...
It's still a bit,
yeah, try that again, will you? What's left to do, Cellarman?
I think it's time we had the weird and wacky world of beer.
Thank you. You've only had one
But
guy.
first, another joke.
Oh.
An 8-year-old girl went to her grandfather, who was working in the yard, and asked, "Grandpa, what is sex?" The grandfather was surprised that she would ask such a question, but decided if she was old enough to ask the question, then she was old enough to get a straight answer. Steeling himself to leave nothing out, he proceeded to tell her all about the human reproduction and joy and responsibility of intercourse. When he finished explaining, the little girl was looking at him with her mouth hanging open, eyes wide in amazement. Seeing the look on her face, the grandfather asked her, "Why did you ask this question anyway, honey?" The little girl replies, "Grandma said dinner will be ready in a couple of secs." That's a sick one, that.
Oh, that is
That's terrible, that one.
Oh, let's get into it. These are short, sharp and quick. Just a nice, fun show because it is between Christmas and New Year, and all the other brewcasts and podcasts are not broadcasting. Slack bastards that they are, aren't
No
they?
dedication to the bloody industry.
No dedication to the hobby of brewing, no dedication to the art of podcasting, and definitely no dedication as a brewcaster. We're the only ones that will give you a light-hearted show to cover you over the festive season when you're all hungover, like the Cellarman is at the moment. Look at his eyeballs, bloody red. They look like red ping pong balls.
I had a very quiet Christmas, thank you.
Yeah, that's why. Look at you. Too sick. Well, let's get into it. New Belgian brewery in the United States, makers of the Fat Tire Amber Ale, have introduced new glassware that is guaranteed to stir the senses. Tapping into the world of physics, artistic bike-shaped etchings are now at the bottom of each glass to create bubbly nucleation, resulting in rolling carbonations throughout the beer. The glass will enhance beer flavour by delivering a greater olfactory experience through carbonation. Isn't that the biggest wank you've ever heard in your life? All they've done is etch the bottom of glasses to get a bit more carbonation coming up.
Yeah,
But look at the marketing spin. What a wank.
Yeah. What do they call them? Brewmaster, was it? Or Brew in Australia here? They made these glasses and they call them Brewmaster. Or?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you know, it's they made in Australia. They made it illegal to be used in pubs.
That's right. Why are they illegal to be used in pubs, Solomon?
Well, for two reasons. A, the main one being is it's virtually impossible to clean them properly because it's sandblasted at the bottom of the glass.
That's it.
That's the main reason. And the other one too is it's false presentation of the product.
And it's also because there's a line on the glasses to tell you how much volume you've got. If you've got a glass actively foaming up all the time, you can't read if you've actually got the volume of beer in your glass you're supposed to have.
Incorrect measure, yeah.
But anyway, Solomon, do you need to go out and buy a fancy etched glass with a bicycle at the bottom that you'll never see anyway when you're half pissed? How could we get the same effect in an ordinary glass we got at home?
Just make good beer.
That helps, but I want to get that foaming coming up from the bottom of the glass. How could I do
Make
that?
a good beer.
No.
I don't have any problem with that.
Listen, you dick. I'm asking you a physics question now. How do we get nice bubbles rising up from the bottom of the glass?
Well, you can do two things. You can chip it yourself in the bottom, little etches, with a little, like a little diamond drill.
Yeah, one of those etching tools.
Yeah.
Just put a couple of scratches in the bottom of your glass.
Or get a hand sandblaster, cheap hand sandblaster.
Yeah, take your glasses around to a sandblasting place and just say, right, can you just put the nozzle right at the bottom, just give it a shot at the bottom. Just put a bit of roughness at the bottom. That's all you need to do. What a wank, I'll tell you. But here's the better wank that's come up. I've never thought I'd ever see this. You've heard of these low-carb beers, right? Beers that have low carbohydrates in them, right? All the mega breweries around the world are selling them. Well, a Queensland boutique brewery has today announced brewing history with the launch of Big Head, the world's first no-carb beer. You ready for this? No carbs.
No carb beer.
Absolutely no. Big Head is the brainchild of the Burleigh Brewing Company, an independent small microbrewery based in Burleigh Heads in Queensland. Now, this is the biggest wank. This goes with the fat tyre glass, in terms of this. A carbohydrate, for the technically minded out there, are monomers and polymers of aldehydes and ketones that has numerous hydroxy groups attached to it. You're impressed by that statement, aren't you, Solomon?
Yeah, but you can't say it without reading it.
Well, that's the technical definition of a carbohydrate. You want a simple definition of a carbohydrate, craft brewer? Just think of any amount of sugars joined together in any length chain is, guess what? A carbohydrate. And we talk about in fermentation, craft brewer, dextrins. And dextrins are sugar complexes, carbohydrates that are left behind that can't be fermented out. Correct, Solomon?
That's right.
All right. And they give what to a beer?
Oh, well, they give you your mouthfeel and your body to your beer, don't they?
Exactly. So if this brewery comes along and says, we've made a no-carb beer, no-carbohydrate beer, they are saying basically they have fermented every dextrin and sugar out of it. In other words, they are bragging, you ready for this, Solomon? They are bragging their beer has no body. It is pure water. There is nothing left. Everything's been converted to alcohol. In other words, come to our brewery and drink water.
Yeah. Alcoholic water.
Alcoholic water. Come to our brewery. What a load of rubbish. Why do breweries do this sort of shit, craft brewer? Because why? Because when they market it as low carb, no carb, or reduced carbs, they're implying that you won't get fat from it. Well, guess what, craft brewer? Wrong. Or because it might have low carbohydrates in it, it has alcohol. And both of them contain calories, don't they, Solomon?
They certainly do.
And they will still get you fat. In fact, craft brewer, for a little bit of snippet information, alcohol has more calories per weight than carbohydrates.
Yep, that's right.
So don't fall for this rubbish.
And the other thing alcohol does is tricks your body into believing that it's got the nourishment it wants. So when you do eat food, it automatically converts to fat for storage.
Very good. So what a load of wank. Big wank out there for that one. Oh, let's get into a bit more funnier stuff, I suppose. Chinese crew use beer bottles to fight off pirates.
Yeah, I heard something about that one. I hope they drank the beer first.
You have to see the picture of this. On this Chinese ship along the railings, they've got all these beer bottles stacked like guns, in a rack. And along one side of the ship, they've got these beer bottles. This is a true story, apparently, craft brewer. A crew of a Chinese ship had described how they used beer bottles and water cannons to fend off a pirate attack off the Somali coast before they were rescued. Now, to the people who don't know, there's a lot of pirating going on off the African northeast coast, if I got my geography right.
Yeah,
and
Somalia and all that.
Yeah, and these bloody pirates just board the ships in fast boats. Well, apparently 9 pirates armed with rocket launchers and I love this, I can't be too bloody good at pirates. 9 pirates armed with rocket launchers and machine guns and machetes boarded the ship, the Xinhua, the Chinese state-run news agency has reported. The vessel's 30-man crew fought for 4 hours, got this, 4 hours, throwing homemade firebombs and beer bottles at the pirates. After 7 of the 9 pirates had landed on the ships, all with weapons, and after the 4-hour battle, the pirates asked for a peace truce to get off the ship. They must be deadly with those beer bottles.
Maybe they made them drink the beer.
Oh, dear. I just love it. I really do love it. Speaking of stupid stories, Cellarman, lately appearing on YouTube and other sites are some ridiculous bloody stupid antics that kids are doing over the festive season with beer and alcohol. And there's a real funny one, Cellarman, of this guy, and he gets a neat nip of spirits, right? And he lights it and scull it, right? So you can picture this. He's got neat alcohol burning in a shot glass, and he's going to throw it down his throat and drink it. Well, it's burning, isn't it?
Yeah.
So not only when he throws it down his throat does he find out that it's hot. Well, he tries to spit it out, doesn't he? And it all dribbles down his chin. Next minute, his shirt's alight and his face. He must have got some powerful burns from alcohol. But a great one that you've got to look up. Look up this website, Craftbrewer, www.snotr.com/video, video, /1899. In this one, this is funny, Sullivan, these kids freeze a stubby of beer in a bottle, right?
Yep.
Then on a super hot plate in the kitchen, they put the beer bottle on the hot plate and then stand back and watch. Well, they were expecting a whole lot of fizzing and maybe a pop. This thing goes off like a bomb, and all you see is this white cloud. And that's all. And that's the last picture you see. It must have gone off with like a rocket.
Oh, bloody well would, wouldn't it? Because let's face it, once you freeze beer, what have you frozen actually?
You've frozen all the carbon dioxide.
Yeah, not only that, you've frozen the water out of it, not the alcohol.
That's it. Oh, it's bad what they did, I'll tell you. It's well worth looking up.
Did they live, did they?
I assume so. But you hear this big boom, and actually the lid pops off the first thing that happens is the lid pops off the stubby. Because it's all frozen, nothing happens. The next minute you hear this big boom, and all you see is white clouds and these kids laughing. So they must have been hiding behind like
it's a shame.
A lounge or whatever.
It's a shame. People like that should be taken out of the gene pool.
Oh, you're not wrong there. A story from the United Kingdom, my friend. An agreement has been reached between the European Union and Britain to keep serving beers in pint glasses in British pubs. Oh, isn't that thing? Beer drinkers have decided to go against the metric system in the United Kingdom. Now, you Americans don't get any friggin' ideas that the world's going back to imperial. This is just a little one-off thing.
All they're doing is trying to preserve a tradition.
That's it. As part of joining the Economic Union, the British goers had to convert everything to the metric system. That included weights and distances, their speedometers, all the rest of it. And one of the things that had to change was that the classic pint had to disappear, being replaced with a half-litre mug. Well, the British public got upset, and the European Union imposed a 2009 deadline that would have forced an end of the imperial units requiring them to convert to metric. But on Tuesday, the European Parliament rescinded the rule, allowing the British to retain the classic pint in a pub. It's a victory of common sense, said the Minister of Europe, Caroline Flint. And it's also a victory for British companies and the British pubs. For while everything else may be metric, you can still get a decent pint.
Yeah. Well, we never had that trouble when we went over to our metric system, did we? Because we didn't have a pints and half pints and that. We had our middies, our pots, our schooners, all by different names.
That's it.
And
that's what we call them. So,
yeah, that's it.
So they just stayed the same.
They stayed the same, stayed being called the same. All the difference was that they had a metric measurement on the side instead of a bloody imperial.
Yep. Here's a great story you'll love, Cellarman. American forces in Iraq may be forced to rename their latest addition to their spy plane fleet. The Flying Beer Keg.
What's wrong with that?
An odd-looking robotic aircraft, sometimes referred to as a flying beer keg, has been launched in Iraq to spy on city streets. This unique device can hover and stare where drones fly over. This thing works like a helicopter with jets going down and keeps it all nice and level, and they can spy down the streets. Well, unfortunately, being a Muslim country, they take offence to something called the flying beer keg flying over. Whether you're an insurgent or a local alike, it's no fun looking up and being a Muslim and saying, oh, look, there goes a flying keg. As much as the Americans have tried to insist to the Iraqi government that this device does not serve beer, they are being forced to radically look at its design and name. Oh, isn't that just wonderful?
Yeah, here we are bombing the shit out of the country, and they're worried about what they call and what they're spying on.
Yeah, they can be worried about a lot of things, you see, but no, the name of one of their surveillance devices.
Yeah, that's it, mate, yeah.
Now, we've been enjoying our Rausch beer there, but I see you brought a beer around, have you?
Oh, well, don't I always? Aren't I the Cellarman?
You are the Cellarman. Do you bring a beer around? No, sometimes you bring around something that looks like beer, meant to taste like beer, but is it beer? Well,
yes.
That's debatable.
Well, have you had a bad beer from me?
I can honestly say I've never had a bad beer from you.
There you go, see.
I've had... no, I won't say it.
I know what you're leading to. Guess what? You're not going to get a bad beer from me now either, because you're not getting any.
Oh, you're a nasty.
Oh, I'm nasty.
Gee, that's an awfully dark beer, that one.
Yeah, it is. It's come out real well, that one.
Okay, then, so what are we dealing with? A porter? Okay, it's too light to be a swash beer. Scottish?
No.
No.
Across the waves from there.
Not a double.
No.
Okay, what is it?
Dunkel.
Oh, a Dunkel. Oh, a nice dark Dunkel.
Yeah, Munich Dunkel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, rip her in. Oh, gee, that even looks wonderful and malty.
Yeah, it throws a good head, doesn't it?
Oh, you're not wrong. That looks wonderful. Oh, shit. That's it. That's one. The smell of a good German beer, craft brewer, is hard to beat.
Mm.
Speaking of Muslim countries,
were we?
we were a while back in Bali. Bali, for the craft brewer who doesn't know, from the United States, where you've got the West Indies and the Bahamas as your cheap playground.
Maldives and all that. And
yeah.
They're off India, but...
Yeah, they're off India. But in the United States, Cellarman, I'm talking about the United States here. In the United States, they go to, the West Indies, the Bahamas. That's a cheap, holiday in the sun. I think in Europe, they go to south of Spain or even to India, to the Maldives and that sort of place. Well, Australians go to Bali. Well, one of the great things about going to Indonesia up to present was the cheap alcohol. Well, not anymore.
Indonesia may be the world's most populous Muslim nation, but that doesn't mean it's immune from the Christian festive season. Hotels and department stores in Jakarta and Bali embrace the commercial spirit of Christmas in a big way. But Christmas cheer may be harder to find this year. A new anti-corruption drive is making imported alcohol prohibitively expensive, leaving Australian holiday makers to temper their tastes. Indonesia correspondent Jeff Thompson reports.
88% of Indonesia's 225 million people are Muslims, but that doesn't mean the spirit of Christmas commercialism isn't haunting the halls of department stores and hotels in Jakarta and Bali. Fake snowflakes tumble to the ground in several Jakarta malls, where Santa sits kids on his knee and young girls wearing headscarves pose for photographs in front of a winter wonderland of white painted wood. But this festive season, one vital ingredient of festive cheer will be beyond the means of many Australian tourists holidaying in Bali. Michael Burchett is the General Manager of the Conrad Hotel in Nusa Dua and Chairman of the Bali Hotels Association.
The challenge we have now in Bali is a glass of nice wine will cost you, 20 to 30%, maybe even 50% more than what you'll pay in London or New York or Moscow, and that doesn't make sense for Bali. So we need to fix that and fix it quickly.
The problem has actually always been there, in the form of heavy taxes and duties on imported alcohol. These were got around in the past, either by buying booze on the black market or because the original value of imported alcohol was open to creative negotiations, meaning that heavy taxes and duties on, say, a $10 bottle of wine were not prohibitively expensive if customs officials agreed to value the wine at, say, just $2 a bottle. But Indonesia's anti-corruption drive has put an end to much of that, and now the only imported wine and spirits available at hotels and bars have been hit with the full taxes on the real value. Michael Burchett again.
The actual taxes are quite significant. You go 150% for duty, you got 40% for luxury tax, you got another 10% for a PPN tax, so you add it all up and you're 380 to 400% by the time you finish. That's a lot.
And it's too much for Bali's fragile tourism market to bear. The global financial crisis is already threatening to force layoffs in the industry, just as it was recovering from fears surrounding the executions of the Bali bombers and the attacks they and other terrorists brought to the island in the past. Bali's governor, Made Pastika, was lobbied, and he then lobbied President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono when he was last in Bali to co-chair a democracy forum with Kevin Rudd. However, with an election year looming in which the support of Islamic parties will be important, SBY won't be rushing to align himself with alcohol drinkers.
How's that for a tax? Their tax is over 200% of the value of the alcohol. That's incredible.
Well, put it this way, but if the alcohol's only $2 to start with, it's not bad.
Well, I like the way the reporter called it creative valuation. But now alcohol in Bali is 20 to 50% more expensive than in Europe or Russia, than America or Australia, which makes you wonder, why would you go on holidays to a place like this where the alcohol's going to be so expensive, more expensive than leaving the place you can get it nice and cheap?
Yeah, that's right.
It makes you wonder.
But what amazed me about too, most travellers, they go overseas to places like Bali, Maldives and things like that, and what do they want to do? They want to drink the beer they drink at home.
That's it. That's it. That's all they do. They drink the beer they see at home. Ah, dear. Let's keep rolling on this. I think, as I said, holidays in Indonesia look like drying up, just like the beer at the moment by the sounds. But actually, you bought beer at Singapore one time. That was bloody expensive too, wasn't it?
Yeah, Singaporean beer was, even in the airports, the spirits were cheap, but the actual beer was expensive. And also in the pub there too.
All right then. How much was a pot of beer or a glass of beer or a pint of beer or what?
Well, it ranged, but the small travelling cans,
yeah,
they were selling them in the pub at $9.
Holy durly!
That's in the pub at $9 a can, and
that's a half can, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only a half can.
Yeah,
right.
$9 a half can.
About 2/3 of a can.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's of their local beer as well. And if you went to a boutique brewery pub like I did, we were paying $17 Australian for a pint of beer.
No, thank you very much on that. Well, maybe they want to get into the latest trend. Beverage manufacturers around the world have continued their love affair with health trends. And we've talked about this before, Craftbrewer on the program, all these different sorts of health kicks that they're trying to promote beer with. Well, in a latest kick to get beer off the ground and into markets, how about a high-fibre beer, Cellarman?
If I want fibre, I'll eat rice bubbles or bloody bran flakes or... Oh, God.
Yes, you've heard correctly. In Spain, Abar Cerveza, I don't know if I've said that right, A-B-A-R-C.
Well, if he's doing that with a beer, he don't need to worry about his name anyway.
have launched a high-fibre beer targeted specifically at women. Yes, each bottle of beer is guaranteed to have 7.5 grams of fibre per bottle.
And what does fibre do to your body?
Well, it helps you move.
Yeah, well, enough beer and you'll do that anyway. Ordinary good beer.
Oh, dear, don't you just love some of these dumb stories you get from out there? Here's a story closer to home. At the moment, the International Cricket Series is on in the Southern Hemisphere. There's few sports like soccer and rugby league and cricket that are an international series, but cricket's one of them. Well, we're due to play the New Zealanders shortly, Cellarman, you know that?
Yep, that's right.
Right. Well, the New Zealanders have little chance of beating Australia, who are ranked number 2 or number 1, depending on the rankings in the world. So they've decided to come out with a challenge. Yes, a bloke called Ryder, who is world-renowned in New Zealand for knocking back a few cold ones with the lads, has set the Australian cricket team a challenge. Now, you remember Craftbrewer, these elite sportsmen, they train, they're paid big money, it's serious stuff, they've got sponsorship, the whole lot. So what's the elite challenge that the New Zealand cricket team's put to the Australians? Well, they have challenged the Australian cricket team to a beer drinking competition. Only over here would you get that. Yep. Elite sportsmen who, instead of promoting their sport, want to promote a beer drinking competition. Yes, Ryder, who's renowned for his drinking exploits in New Zealand, is just back to fitness after he smashed his hand out. What doing? Well, nothing more than trying to unlock a pub toilet. He locked himself in a toilet, pest as a parrot, apparently. So, as part of their psychological warfare against the Australians, they are now going to try to challenge them to a beer drinking competition because they believe they can outdo the Aussies. Well, they beat us at rugby league recently, so maybe they can.
Rugby league or union?
Both.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So they might have a chance, you never know. But I just love it. Elite sportsmen, you wouldn't see that in any other country of the world, would you?
No.
You would not see that.
No. Okay, my last joke for the year.
Oh, yes, I'll even let you... Encore! Go!
Bloke goes to the US patent office trying to register some of his inventions. He went to the main desk and signs in, and as the lady at the desk gives him a form to fill out, he fills it out, and she wrote down the personal details and says, what have I invented, or what has this bloke invented? He says, a folding bottle. She says, okay, what do you call it? A fottle.
A fottle.
What else do you have? A folding carton. And what do you call it? A fartin. She snickered and says, those are silly names for products, and one of them sounds kind of crude. He was so upset by the comment that he grabbed his form and left the office without telling her that about his other invention, a folding bucket.
Oh, and that's your last one for the year?
That's my last joke for the year.
Oh, how...
Seeing this is the last program for the year. I will not tell another joke on this program this year. There you are.
So you're not going to open...
You've upset me.
So you're not going to open your mouth?
No,
oh, how wonderful.
I said I will not tell another joke.
But you are a joke. That's the reason I have you hold the program.
That's why you're here.
Back to Iran this time, Muslim countries. Well, in a country where drinking alcohol can wind you in 7 years jail or the lashes, 4 people have died and dozens have been poisoned after drinking homemade booze at a wedding party in Iran. So obviously it must have been good hooch. 33 other people have been admitted to hospital after drinking the same alcohol, obviously containing methanol, said a hospital director. 4 of them died in the morning. Another 4 are brain dead with little chance of survival. Another 6 are intensive care after a wedding at the city of Bandar Abbas. Production of alcohol is prohibited, of course, in Iran, which makes you wonder why they make this toxic moonshine and are prepared to drink it. Now, Christians apparently allowed to drink alcohol as long as they do it behind closed doors and do it very, discreetly. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now, here's the lesson, craft brewer. If you go to Iran and someone offers you cheap booze, what do you not do, Cellarman?
Well, you certainly don't drink it.
Yes. Why? Well, in May 2006, 15 people died of alcoholic poisoning in the southern city of Sijjar. And the year before, 22 Iranians died in the southern city of Shiraz. In fact, alcohol poisoning is a regular occurrence in the Iranian nation. So, here's your travel tip of the year, craft brewer. Go to Iran, don't drink the alcohol.
Well, look at it this way. You'd think a country where alcohol is banned, there's not going to be a decent brewer amongst them.
Well, that's it. They're obviously drinking pure methanol. Back to Australia, we've had the alcohol laws here and there's big concerns about binge drinking. Well, in the country town of Burke, they are considering banning all...
Sure, it wasn't the back of Burke.
No, it's the back of Burke, actually. This is the back of Burke. At the back of Burke in Burke. The back of Burke. That's an Australian joke, by the way. If you don't know what back of Burke is, you better go look that up, Craftbrewer. Just look it up on the records. Like David Cryer, he'd look that up now because he's from New Zealand. But he supplies the best darn Galaxy malt out there. Just Google him up, David Cryer, with suppliers like Ross Kendrick, supplying all the Galaxy malt you'll ever need in Northern Australia and around the world. Just look him up. But getting back to Burke, why are they going to ban beer and alco pops? It is not because of binge drinking. It is not because they're concerned about alcoholic poisoning in the city.
It's too bloody hot out there for the old alco pops to freeze.
No, it's not that. It is not because of the social stigma of drinking alcohol in the public. No. The head of the Alcohol, Liquor and Gaming Director, Albert Gardner, is seriously considering a town-wide ban on all beer bottles and alco pops because there is so much broken glass around the town that kids can't play in the playgrounds.
They got playgrounds. They got playgrounds out there?
Apparently so, but apparently there is so much broken glass in the town, no one can walk around the town in bare feet without getting cut. That's how bad their drinking problem is in this town.
I'm surprised with all these hairy-fairy, muddy do-gooders around that there's even playgrounds out there anymore where the kids can get hurt.
Mr. Gardner has flagged that a town-wide ban may be approved on takeaway sales of any bottled beer or alcohol pops after doing a personal tour and finding no playground was safe enough for kids to play in.
Why don't they just do what everyone else does, use cans only.
Well, that's what they're going to have. Yeah. Instead of having broken glass everywhere, they'll have cans everywhere. Ever see the Birdsville races? There's a good one for you, Craftbrewer. Birdsville is a town in Western Queensland, population of about 5, I think it is. They have a race meet every year, don't they?
Yeah, the Birdsville races, yeah.
That's right. And the town only has a pub and a couple of houses and a post office, I think. But during the Birdsville races, they drink enough beer cans, not beer cans, I mean, the beer itself in the cans. But the streets are so full of beer cans that four-wheel drives get bogged in the depth of beer cans. They try to drive four-wheel drives down the street to see who can get through the weight of beer cans that have been thrown into the street. This gives you an idea of how many people turn up in this little hick town for the race meet.
And we haven't got a beer drinking culture.
No, of course not. Just an alcoholic culture. But it's great. Look up Birdsville races on the internet, Craftbrewer, and you'll see pictures of four-wheel drives bogged in the streets. Not from mud or dirt, but because they can't get through the beer cans. It's an incredible thing. Anyway, speaking of beer cans, these stories come up on occasion. Another one's come up. A single guy living in his townhouse for 8 years in Utah has accumulated so many beer cans in his house that he had to build tunnels from room to room to be able to move about his apartment.
What's wrong with going to the scrap metal yard?
Now, I've had stories before about beer cans in people accumulating beer cans in flats and that.
Oh,
but this guy accumulated so many that he had to build tunnels.
Were they full or empty?
I have no idea. There are heaps of photos on this. Century 21, the landlords have spent weeks removing the cans and had to dismantle complex tunnel systems to go from room to room for this guy's house. If you want to see some photos, it's urbanlegends.about.com/OD/HUMO1/SS/beer cans. If you want to go look that up, I don't know how true this story is, but it just,
Well, people have made houses out of beer bottles and
of everything else. Well, he actually did the reverse. He had a house and then made it into a beer can. I loved it, I think. Oh, dear. Now, you talked about before how in Australia we were getting one-off welfare payments.
Yeah.
Right. In Australia, as part of the economic stimulus, and it's done this around the world, governments have been paying a whole lot of people cash payments. And in Australia, a lot of the poorer and down and outs got $1,000 each to stimulate the economy. Now, in other countries, they went out to the shops, didn't they, Cellarman?
Yep.
Went out and they bought stuff and kids and presents. Well, what did they do in Australia? Well, Broome Police say the federal government's new one-off welfare payment has been used for buying alcohol.
Well, stimulates the economy, doesn't it?
But you ready for this? What's the normal price of a carton of beer in Australia?
Oh, around 35.
Yep, about that. Well, alcoholics in Broome are paying $170 for a carton of beer from the back of cars. This is all a result. You followed it on the series Craftbrewer all this year about trying to ban alcohol in certain communities. Well, these booze runners, probably modern day, what do they call them, Cellarman?
Oh, the bootleggers.
Bootleggers. These are modern day bootleggers in Australia. Well, they're running in the boots of their cars, alcohol out to these places, $170 a carton, charging huge amounts above the normal retail price. For the first time we've ever seen in the Broome community, said the police officer, the $1,000 payment has turned the city into a total alcoholic derelict community. He said there are just people everywhere. It's turned into an alcohol-fueled, violent community from a normal, balmy tourist town, he said. I've seen so many very inebriated people wandering around the town, I can't arrest them as I have nowhere to put them. Well, it's stimulated a lot, mate, hasn't it?
It stimulated them.
Oh, you're not wrong there.
Just throw them in the river, and if the crocs don't get them, they'll sober up.
You're not wrong there. Well, let's go to England. Now, in England, the English police force has had a bit of a brain drain, if you like, or the police force has been draining, and most of them have been moving to Australia because England's a pretty rotten place to live, isn't it?
Well, so our English friend Tony tells us all the time.
He does indeed. Well, English police, in an effort to lure back police officers who have left Britain for a new life in Australia, are tempting police officers with a neat package. Here's the package, mate. They are asking officers, are you missing things like Marmite, good English British cup of tea, a Sunday roast, cricket at Lord's? Come back to England. But their clencher?
A pint.
They're offering them real British ale to come back to England.
Well, come over here, fellas. We'll show you how to make a real British ale too.
Head of the campaign has touted real British ale as the key ingredient they believe that could lure British constables back to the British Isles.
How about a pay rise?
You gotta love it, mate. You gotta love it. And you gotta love this story too. This one comes from Australia. Now, you know you go to workplaces more and more and you get breath tested, don't you?
Yep.
You go in the car and you get breath tested, right? If you're in a responsible job, you get breath tested, don't you? In fact, it's very rare to go anywhere without getting breath tested for alcohol. What's the one profession you would think that so far has escaped this draconian measure?
Well, it'd have to be the same one who's got the best retirement scheme in the world, wouldn't it? That's the pollies.
That's it, the politicians, yes. The politicians who draft all these laws and enforce all these laws, strangely enough, don't get breath tested. Now, in Australia, there's been a whole lot of things, haven't there, of drunk politicians making votes?
Yeah.
Well, have a listen to this, Craftbrewer, because now they want to bring in compulsory breath testing of politicians.
The National Interest Roundup begins with a suggestion for the New South Wales Parliament. Provide breath testing kits to ensure that politicians don't drink and vote. In most workplaces, you'd get into serious trouble for being drunk on the job. I know the ABC would be less than impressed if I was caught IUI, interviewing under the influence. But it seems sobriety in politics is not a given. And in the Premier State, politicians of various shades have acknowledged the problem and offered a solution. Health Minister John Della Bosca, Opposition Leader Barry O'Farrell and the Greens have all backed calls for the installation of a parliamentary breathalyser, so MPs can check their blood alcohol level before making important decisions. Speaker Richard Torbay says he sees no problem as long as the system is voluntary. But if we can't trust MPs to count their drinks, how can we trust them to blow in the bag when they're under the weather? The proposal for political breath tests follows a late-night altercation in which Nationals MP Andrew Fraser allegedly pushed a female colleague. Mr Fraser was returning to Parliament for a vote after attending a Christmas party when the event occurred, but he denies that he was affected by alcohol.
Yes, Cellarman, I think this is a must. If they're voting on our taxes and on our laws and everything else, I think they should be breath tested when they walk into Parliament, don't you?
Yeah, it should be at least sober.
Well,
maybe might have a conscience then.
But as I said, you notice how the politicians are out there saying it should be compulsory on the road, compulsory in the workplace, compulsory everything else. They want it to be voluntarily. They don't want it to be compulsory in their line of work, do they?
Oh, of course not.
No, of course not. Which tells you a couple of things. The first thing is most politicians are probably blind drunk when they're sitting in Parliament anyway about passing these laws.
Well, most of them go to sleep anyway because they're pissed after lunch.
That's it. It ruins their boozy afternoons, it does. But as one politician said on the radio, you love this bit, he says, I'm not in favour of breath testing politicians, he said. Why? He said, a lot of deals are done over a few beers and wines and an afternoon session in the politicians' private bars.
Well, that's all very fine, but use the same principle we use in the military. If you drink at lunchtime, you don't go back to bloody work.
Well, they don't consider it work, of course, do they?
No.
Now, back to...
No, not the amount of money they get paid for. It's not work, it's a graft.
Oh, you're not wrong there. Here's one from Florida. A man called police on Wednesday night after he came home from work and spotted a drunk woman drinking beer at his place. Nothing much unusual about that. You get drunks in your place all the time, don't you?
I don't. Maybe you do.
Well, you don't get them all the time,
No.
but you do occasionally, see them around the streets and whatever. What makes this story unusual? Well, the man spotted the 28-year-old woman totally pissed.
And he knew her age straight off.
Yeah. The man spotted his... you dick. The man spotted the 28-year-old woman totally pissed on the roof of his house. How he got there was a mystery, he says.
She's getting high.
Well, it's a new meaning to getting high.
Yeah, she's getting high.
Police were called, but she refused to get down. She was eventually coaxed to get down. You ready for this? Only if the man agreed to go to his fridge and bring her more beer. Naturally, she has been charged. I think that's so cute. Oh, dear me.
Depends how good a looker she is.
You're not wrong. Now, remember on a few programs back, we talked about how they're putting Braille on beer bottles, right?
Yep.
Well, in Japan, they've gone one step further. While being blind drunk is a phrase that it should be condemned by most people as offensive to the general community, being blind and drunk is something blind people are often concerned with. I love the way this introduces. What's this got to do with people who are blind? Well, apparently in Japan, when you go to vending machines, it's very hard for blind people to understand if they're getting a Coke or a soda or a coffee, apparently they serve everything in tins, or a beer. Because in Japan, beer is also served in vending machines. Well, the brainchild of a Japanese brewing company has put Braille on all their beer cans. And you got to see it. It's actually got Braille writing on the beer cans.
I tell you, in line with that, yeah, that makes a bit of sense, right?
It does.
Right.
The dots will read alcohol on some of the Kirin Brewery's cans, but they can also spell out Kirin beer or the brand as well. The Braille is also now being put on all the vending machines so that the blind people can know that the vending machine has beer in it. Well, which brings a new meaning to the word of being utterly blind drunk, doesn't it?
Well, that to me would be the commonplace to put it on the front of the machine so you don't get the wrong can in the first place.
But from Japan. Japan is notorious for adapting foreign cultures, craft, cuisines, and anything else to their tastes. Sometimes they work, many times they don't. Well, there is yet another beer that has been twigged, so to speak. There's Tosha Kushisoro Kagado beer. Located in the province of Kushi, formerly known as Tosha, this area has brewed a variety of beers which must be assumed by the best of people to be mediocre, as they have never risen much above
locals.
Yeah, local sales. You got it in one. Anyway, this new beer is breaking all records. Why? It has one remarkable ingredient in it.
Alcohol?
Dashi. It's got dashi in it. You're looking at me rather perplexed, aren't you? Yes.
Dashi here, dashi there.
Yes, that's it.
Dashi everywhere.
You will after you hear this. Dashi is made from dried seaweed and dried bonito, a fish related to tuna. Yeah. Yes, you've heard right, Craftbrewer. This beer has a distinctive flavour of Japanese miso soup with dried fish in the recipe.
That reminds me of your lambic.
I started this trend and now they're copying it around the world. For some reason, this has become a hit. But as the brewing director did say, I'm guessing it's more that the alcohol is a bit higher in this beer than the fish itself.
Well, yeah, they have something to kill the alcohol, kill the fish taste.
Do you remember years ago when we were on live radio and we got the call from Ingham about the guy who put a piece of, not not sardine. What's the little strong
herring,
fish?
not herring, anchovy.
Anchovy, that's right.
Yeah.
Remember the guy?
Yeah, I remember that one,
He
yeah.
rang in, and we were talking about weird brewing ingredients, and this guy rang in from Ingham Craftbrewer, and we're talking about weird stuff you put in beer, and we thought we heard it all, and we're on live radio, and this guy comes on, and he says, well, I make my beers, and in every beer bottle I put a piece of anchovy. You heard correctly, Craftbrewer. He swears a piece of anchovy in every beer bottle does wonders.
For what?
I don't know
Well,
what.
I suppose one thing, it stops his mates bludgeon off him.
I tell you what, he'd never worry about having to bloody share his beers around. Nobody else would bring and drink. But he was fair dinkum, Craftbrewer. But here's two more to finish off Weird and Wacky World of Beer. As I said, a nice, short, sharp program for you. How's this one? Remember in the few programs back we talked about iPhone and the iPour, where you can actually on an iPhone pour a glass of beer and tilt it and drink it?
Yeah, what do you
Well,
call it,
if you're out on
beer.
holidays and drinking beers and you're wondering, are you fine? Are you over the limit? Well, Dave Steele Enterprises have aptly named and introduced the iBreath for $79, an accessory that you put on your iPod. And guess what? You can blow into it and it will read your alcohol content. Yes, a portable breathalyzer has been made and adopted for the iPhone. For those people out there wondering whether they're drunk or not. Now, apparently, this is serious, Craftbrewer. Apparently, this thing actually works.
Yeah, well,
it actually.
Well, you've got portable breathalyzers around anyway.
Yeah, well, this is one you put on your iPhone. I just think this is rather novel. Apparently, it can read from 0 to 0.1%. Any higher, and it just goes red.
Any higher, and your iPod blows up. You can buy a new iPod.
Apparently, it requires no batteries. You just clip it on, and it will work. And it has a built-in timer so that you can test yourself anywhere from 1 minute to 8 hours later. So it rings up and says, would you like another breath test? Would you like another breath test? And one last one. This comes from New Zealand. A community hall was hired out by party organisers of the New Zealand High School's anti-drink driving organisation to conduct a function to promote anti-drink driving and anti-drinking in the local community. The party was organised by the Students Against Drunk Driving Committee at the St. Peter's College at Gore to celebrate finishing the year's examination, the local newspaper said. So what makes this story so interesting and a good end to this weird and wacky world?
They all
of
got
beer?
drunk.
No. Drunken teenagers wrecked the hall during the party. Yes, you heard right. The windows of the Wahami Hall were smashed, doors kicked in, bottles thrown as passing cars full of drunken revellers, one after another, raided the place. Which goes to tell you, in New Zealand, you don't conduct an anti-drink driving campaign in a local hall, correct?
No.
Oh, dickheads.
Yeah.
All right, Solomon, we promised the Craftbrewer a short program because it's a festive season. Nothing technical, just a nice, fun show, easy listening.
Besides that, you've been making me talk so much, I'm thirsty.
So am I, and we've gone about an hour, and an hour's long enough for a nice, easy show. We'll be on again in 2 weeks' time for the new year. We take no breaks, Craftbrewer, because we do it for you, this program.
We're
Nobody
dedicated
else.
to this industry.
We don't try to flog you a product, Craftbrewer. We don't get out there and try to sell you stuff. We don't have fancy websites.
I'm trying to sell my accommodation.
No, you're trying to flog a free trip to the United States. In fact, I'm trying to flog a free trip to the American Home Brew Conference. But besides that, we don't try to flog you things. We don't have fancy websites. We're just here to give you a nice program. We do it off the cuff because we enjoy doing it, don't we, Solomon?
Dead true. And we get paid expensive amounts for it.
That's it. And speaking of the expensive amounts, your budget's over for this program.
I know. I've had 2 extra beers.
I know. So, any final words to the Craftbrewer out there?
My last one for the year. Rahu Piasa. And we know what that all means. We've all gone through it before. And that's the way I want you to be over Christmas. So enjoy your holiday and stay thirsty.
And I'm your brewmaster, Graham Sanders, and I thank you yet again for joining us on the program. Yes, we're back for 2009, continuing well into our 10th year now. And what song have I got? Well, I'll just use the good old-fashioned drunken point your finger at the button and press it, and that's the song that's going to come up. So, avoid hangovers. Stay drunk. And till we meet again, it's your shout, mate.
I don't bother tripping over one time. I'd rather just hang out in the sunshine, sitting back in a chair with a blunt and a beer, knowing that everything is alright. I don't bother tripping over one time. I'd rather just hang out in the sunshine, sitting back in a chair with a blunt and a beer, knowing that everything is alright. I travel across the world just confused, just believing in the people that are you. Maybe I'm just high, never seem to try to figure out the what, when, and why. Hopefully someday I'll get it, don't you? Maybe I'll just move back to the ocean, live on a boat, dead but afloat, and it's on display all the words I just wrote. Oh yeah, I like it like that. I like it when you move it to the front, to the back, and on the world. I just wanna be kind, but the dark black clouds keep out of my mind. And oh yeah, I like it like that. I like it when you move it to the front, to the back, and on the world. I just wanna be kind, but the dark black clouds keep out of my mind. I don't bother tripping over one time. I'd rather just hang out in the sunshine, sitting back in the chair with a blunt and a beer, knowing that everything is alright. I don't bother tripping over one time. I'd rather just hang out in the sunshine, sitting back in a chair with a blunt and a beer, knowing that everything is alright. My brain needs for rest. My chest, my face, running far from the stage. When we talk on the knees, take a run from the that time is now gone. Hopefully it's gone now before my with no final squeeze. There was no how and no one relied. Our life is turning into music with no place to save yourself. The future's all dead. And oh yeah, I like it like that. I like it when you move it to the front, to the back, and all the world. I just wanna be kind, but the dark black clouds keep out of my mind. Said oh yeah, I like it like that. I like it when you move it to the front, to the back, and all the world. I just wanna be kind, but the dark black clouds keep out of my mind. I don't bother tripping over one time. I'd rather just hang out in the sunshine, sitting back in the chair with a blunt and a beer, knowing that everything is alright. I don't bother tripping over one time. I'd rather just hang out in the sunshine, sitting back in the chair with a blunt and a beer, knowing that everything is alright.